Hello, game-driven players. This is Mick. Today I'm going to go over a classic game, chess, kind of a staple of the board game environment, and certainly one of the three big staples inside our game library, along with checkers and backgammon. So, for chess, I'm not going to go through all the rules of all the pieces, all the movements, because that's a pretty well documented rule set. We focus more on the movement within our site. So how do you move the pieces and what are the board setups? Because we do have a couple variations of chess as well, but we're not going to go through all of the piece movements. So let's just talk about the interface itself and how you play chess on our site. So I'm going to create a new invite for Mick here to chess. And this will show you the game from the beginning. And accept that invite from Game Driven. There we go. And so now I have actually a couple games going on with Game Driven. One that I have mid-play and the other one that's at the very first move. So if I go into my Game Driven game, I'll see standard chess layout. A couple of the appliances here. We have just a little bit about the autoplay feature because that is something that people should be aware of. It's off by default, so by default you can move pieces, change your mind, resubmit, and so forth until you're happy with the move. Some people prefer to turn the auto on, and that means as soon as they click the target location of their piece, that move will be submitted. You can turn on the grid. These are the classic coordinate system of chess, so sometimes you may want to look at that. And as I said, the auto goes on or off here. You'll also notice that we have a status area for chess, and we'll show that as we capture pieces. We have which side you're on. Your side's always going to be facing you, on the side of the board facing you. But unlike some of our other games, you could be black or you could be white, but you will be on this side of the board. So it is sitting you at the table in front of your pieces. There's also a draw option at any time, and we'll talk about that too. So to move my pieces, I just click on them. So if I click on this pawn, you're going to see it not only turns yellow, but it shows you the potential moves that I can move that pawn. So I can move it here. Once I've made my move, I can reset and go back and choose a different piece. I can also reset by clicking the piece again. So I can go here and then click them again, and that does the move. And then here's the knight moving out. So not too surprising, you probably would have assumed that was the way we had set it up. So there's the pawn moving out, and then if I refresh over here, see it's my turn, and now you see I am looking at the black pieces and I'm seeing the mirror image of the board to show my pieces. What I want to do here is I want to capture a piece and show you how that works. So actually I advanced to the other game we're playing, so let's go back into here. So let's move my knight out and do a few different moves here, get us a little further along. All right, so did that again. Go back to the shorter game. So now if I want to capture his pawn with my knight, I see the knight has quite a few different moves it can make, and I'm going to go ahead and capture that pawn, and then you'll notice that that pawn came up in the status tray here. So this is just a way of showing the pieces that have been captured so far. If it's the case of a bishop, knight, or rook, you'll just see a double image. In the case of pawns, there'll be a number that shows you how many pawns you've captured. And then obviously there's only one queen. So that's the basic movement. It's not very hard to follow. I have a more advanced game here, a game that's further along in my queue, and I'll get to that. So this is a game we've been playing for a few minutes. There's the pawn thing I told you about. It's actually captured 2 pawns, so not 3. As soon as they capture 3, that'll be a number as opposed to more pawns. But what I wanted to leave the board in this position for was to show you that in order to castle, we can click. So this is my turn, and I've actually cleared out the space between my king and both rooks. So if I click on the king, if I move him 1 space, which is his normal movement, then I'm going to assume he just moves his normal space. Of course, as you know by the chess rules, once I've moved my king or rook, I can't castle any longer. So if I want to castle, I click him and I move him 2 spaces, which normally would be legal outside of a castle. You also know that you can't castle through a check. There's, rules around castling. Those are in the game. So if I just click here, you'll see that it does the full castle move. And I'll reset that again. Same in the other direction. So I want to show the castling move, not too surprising. Another thing that is more evident with this game that's further in progress, if you click history, you see the classic chess notation, or a classic chess notation. There's many of them, but this just kind of shows all the games that have been happening, or all of the moves that have been happening so far in the game when something gets captured. So you can replay this as well, or not replay it, but you can go back and look at the history. So that is one of the moves that's pretty different or interesting than the regular moves. The other move, if I go to my queue and I pull up that game that's further along, is pawn promotion. I wanted to show you that. So this guy, I'm going to leave his pawn alone. He's going to move ahead. And once I do one more move, so go back to that and I'll do something else. Then when it's his turn again, in this game, when it's his turn again, he can now move to that 8th row back position and be promoted. So he just does the normal move, but what happens is he gets a pop-up dialog in which he can choose the piece he wants to get promoted to. And then he promotes that, and now he's a queen. So that's the promotion piece. There's also an en passant. Those who are familiar with a capture of a pawn that has tried to get past you, that does work as well. It just means your opponent's pawn will have as an option to capture the passing pawn. So that's implemented. Those are kind of the only out of unusual rules. I can also, when it is my turn, request a draw. So if I click draw during my turn, then I can request a draw, and it says draw will be requested. Submit that. And it does kind of have a status bar at the bottom of the board to remind me of that. And then when I come back to this game, which is this guy, it is asking me before I can move. It's kind of a blocking dialogue that says you've been offered a draw. If you accept the draw, the game ends immediately. Declining, you just go to your next move. So if I decline the draw and then just do my next move, let's put him in check, because that will show that part. You'll see it already says check here. Submit that. And when my opponent goes back to the game, it says check. And they won't be able to do anything except stop the check. So if I try to click the rook, I can't move him at this time, so it comes up in red, because there's nothing I can do with the rook to prevent the check. So the queen could be moved, the king could be moved, the bishop can be moved, but other pieces that have no effect on thwarting the check cannot be moved. So the game proceeds until somebody wins or there's a draw. And then they win by checkmate, as you know. So that'll say checkmate under here instead of check at the end of that game. There are a couple variations of chess. First off, let me talk about the preferences. The preferences for chess are again cosmetic. You can change to one of 6 boards that you may prefer. You can change the pieces to blue and red instead of white and black. You can turn the axes permanently on or off, and you can turn autoplay permanently on or off. Those are the only cosmetic changes you can make in the preferences. As far as the variations go, we have 2 variations. One variation is called check. In check chess, as soon as you check your opponent, you've won. So it's a shortened version of checkmate, shortened version of the normal chess game. And for those who want a very quick game and just want to see who can check the other king, it doesn't even matter who has any advantage in the game. The first check wins. The second game, which is kind of interesting, is called swap. And in swap chess, whenever you take a piece that is higher in rank than your piece is promoted to that. So if you capture a knight with a pawn, you become a knight. And so that's a variation, kind of a interesting twist for those who have played a lot of chess and want a different kind of challenge. That's it. Those are the only 2 chess variations. Okay, so that's how you play chess on Game Driven. It's a great game, obviously been around a long time. I hope you enjoy that on our site, along with all the other games. Chess, backgammon, and checkers are 3 of the kind of staple board games that we felt needed to be in the library, because everybody pretty much has played those, or a lot of people have played those. They know how the rules should work, and we faithfully try to represent that in our game. So have a great time playing chess and the other games, and I'll see you around the site.